audience and another person is recording as well. A young girl named Alex Glashow became a competitive swimmer at the age of 7. She swam around 8,000 yards a day in the pool, which eventually led to discomfort in her arms. She learned how to decrease this discomfort by dislocating her shoulder in the pool. This injury led Alex to give up the sport she loved when she was only 15. The story of Alex Glashow is one of the many stories that deal with overuse injuries in our youth. According to the National Athletic Trainers Association position statement, Prevention of Pediatric Overuse Injuries, approximately 50% of all pediatric sport-related injuries are due to overuse of repetitive trauma. Today, I'm going to speak on why overuse injuries are a growing problem in America. I will then explain some causes of overuse injuries in the youth population. Finally, I will persuade you to accept a solution to stop overuse injuries in our youth. Joel S. Brenner, a MD and MPH, defined an overuse injury as microtraumatic damage to a bone, muscle, or tendon that has been subjected to repetitive stress without sufficient time to heal or undergo the natural reparative process. He defined this term in an article that was from the official journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics. It was also stated that 30 to 45 million youth who are from the ages 6 to 18 years old participate in some kind of athletics. Because of this increase, sports are getting more and more competitive, and kids are expected to play the same sport year-round, and they are also playing the same sport on multiple teams at a time. Because these young athletes are still growing, their bones are not capable of handling as much stress as the bones of adults. Therefore, these young athletes are more accessible to overuse injuries. Another factor includes improper techniques that the young athlete has developed. These improper techniques put abnormal stress on the musculoskeletal system, and many injuries from improper techniques come from repetitive motion in a specific area. And a lot of doctors worry about this repetitive motion in baseball with pitchers and the ulnar collateral ligament. They're worried about that tearing, especially with young kids. They like to throw curveballs now at such a young age, and doctors don't like that. Also, they're worried about the shoulder in the awkward position back behind the head, which messes with the rotator cuff muscles. And then in swimming, the position isn't normal for your rotator cuff muscles, so it restricts them. Parents and coaches believe that if the athlete specializes in a particular sport at an early age, then the athlete has a greater chance of receiving a sports scholarship to college. But in the article Blowing the Whistle on Youth Sports, Mark Hyman surveyed 500 college athletes, and 65% of these athletes said it was not necessary to specialize in a sport before high school in order to play in college. More competitiveness, growth and development of the athlete, pressure, and the improper techniques that some of these athletes develop can all potentially lead to overuse injuries. The wisest solution to this epidemic of overuse injuries in our youth is not allowing these athletes to participate in year-round in one sport. This solution will permit the athlete to take a break away from the sport, allowing muscles and bones to repair and the rest. In the article, doctors see a big rise in injuries as young athletes train nonstop. A big sports orthopedic named Dr. James Andrews said the halt of overuse injuries begins with stopping year-round play in one sport. He states that athletes need at least 3 months off of their sport. Just because an athlete stops participating in one sport year-round does not mean that he or she cannot still be active. There are many different options that young athletes can partake in and enjoy. Young athletes, according to an article in the Journal of Athletic Training, are encouraged to participate in multiple sports to enhance general fitness and aid in motor development. If young athletes decide to participate in another sport, they need to be sure that they are working different muscles than they use in their main sport. If they are not balancing out their muscles, then they still could suffer from overuse injuries. According to National Athletic Trainers Association position statement, being involved in training and conditioning programs can help the athlete gain neuromuscular control, balance, coordination, flexibility, and strength in the lower extremities. All of these exercises will reduce the risk of overuse injuries. According to the same article, athletes should only increase the intensity, load, time, and distance by 10% each week to allow for adequate adaptation to avoid overload. Another article called "Doctors See a Big Rise in Injuries as Young Athletes Train Nonstop" describes a certified strength and conditioning coach named Vinny Sullivan. He started a program to help athletes correct muscle imbalances that are brought on by overtraining in a single sport. Not allowing children to partake in one sport year-round is the best solution to the problem of overuse injuries in our youth athletes. With this solution, the young athlete has other options he or she can partake in and enjoy. I have spoken about the growing problem of overuse injuries in the children who participate in athletics. I have described some causes of the overuse injuries being competitiveness that causes the young athlete to play a certain sport year-round and often on multiple teams at a time. Other factors that contribute are also growth and development, improper techniques, and pressure from coaches and parents. In some instances, these athletes are forced to quit because the sport has done so much harm to their body. Like Alex Glashow, who I talked about earlier, she can no longer swim competitively, but she now stays involved by helping out her local pool by being a lifeguard. Not allowing young athletes to participate in a single sport year-round provides the athlete some diversification, and there are safety benefits as well. Overuse injuries will be reduced in the youth and athletic population, and young athletes will also have a chance to stay active by getting involved in diverse sports that work different muscles in their body. These athletes can also partake in strength and conditioning programs to help correct muscle imbalances and gain knowledge of safe training so that their risk of getting injured is reduced. The best solution to preventing overuse injuries in young athletes is to discourage these athletes from participation in a single sport year-round. There was once a poster that showed a youth baseball team celebrating after a game with a question on it. The question was, what will they have longer, their trophies or their injuries? That's a good question to think about.